hidden gems, hidden treasures, things that we didn't know that exist. I think all of us know that from any kind of software. At some point in time, we find something where we thought, oh, wow, this is possible. That's great. Why didn't I know about that? It's because these features are not that obvious sometimes. So let's start with the small stuff. So first of all, you can see I have a project, and in this project, I have lots and lots of tabs of documents open at the top. So it doesn't only have to be documents that you're translating. It could also be a translation memory that you're editing, a term base that you're editing. It could be a list of QA messages. So everything that memoQ does, it does in a tab. Now, the thing is, it takes time to open and close these tabs. So let's close the project, and you will see it takes some time until all these documents are closed down and the project can close. If I open the project again with a double click, memoQ remembered all the open tabs and is now first opening all the tabs again. So again, this takes some time before we can actually get started with our work. And depending on how many tabs you have open or how big your screen is, let me just, when this is done, make this a little bit smaller. If you have a smaller screen, you might not see all the tabs that are open. So then there's this button to go to the next and to the previous to cycle through these tabs. But there's also an easier way. There is another button, this arrow pointing down. If you click on it, you will see the names of all the tabs that are open, and you can just jump very quickly to one of them by clicking on the name, and it will open in the editor. Or if you've opened all these tabs, but you don't need them, you want to close everything, then you can again use this button and say, I want to close all the tabs. It's very quick, and then you can close the project, and then that's a lot faster than if these tabs are still open. So this is something where we have this small button on the right side, which we don't really see, but which can help us a lot. The next thing would be looking at the right click. I guess sometimes we do that instinctively because we know there is a context menu with the right click, but there are places where the right click is not that obvious. So let's go inside of one of my documents. And let's see, I have a sentence here, and you can see there is a translation, but one of the words has this red wavy underline. Well, let me just make that a little bit bigger because I think that's easier to see then. In the options, just change the size of the font. Well, let's change it to 18 and apply. And you can see in the background, the script becomes larger. So now the right click. If I do the right click directly on that word, I get spell checking options or spelling options that I might want to choose instead of the possibly incorrect word that I have here. If I click a little bit more to the right or to the left, I get the regular menu, the context menu at this point. There are a lot of things that are also in the ribbons, like joining and splitting, like pasting, copying the source, editing the source. That's also something that you sometimes might have to do if asked to change something in the source document, which doesn't really change the source document itself, but only the source sentence that would then be saved to the translation memory. So you can see here, edit source and F2. So for each segment where it's necessary, like this one, we say F2, it gets a green background, and then you can change the source sentence. I would only do that if these changes are really also done by the client, so by the person who actually created the document, because the next time you get some updated kind of document from that, you would get lower matches if they don't make the same change as you do. You can also do a right click on this side in the translation results list. So right click here on something coming from the translation memory will let you edit or view whatever you have in the translation memory. So this would be this one segment with the metadata. So everything that has been saved to this segment in the translation memory, like username and the time and date when it was saved, the document name, where it came from, and possibly if you've set up your project like that, the name of the project, the client, the domain, or the subject. What you can also do from here is if you find that, oh, wow, this is a mistake, and probably this mistake happens a lot in the translation memory, I would now need to go into the whole translation memory. You can do so by saying I want to edit my TM. Now comes a filter dialog that lets you filter out all the segments that you want to look at, either by words that appear in them or by date, for example. If you just click OK, you will see the whole translation memory. And it will come up as a separate tab. And now you can do maybe some search and replace inside of the whole translation memory. Now, this only applies if it's your translation memory, if it's a local translation memory on your machine. If it is a translation memory from a client that you work for on a memoQ server, then you probably don't have the right to edit the translation memory. You can edit single translation units. So with a right click on the unit, you should always be able to open this one unit with the view and edit, but you might not be able to open the whole translation memory. Now let's go to this sentence here. We have a terminology entry being recognized. We can also go here and select the right mouse click, again, view and edit. That's the same as that pen icon to open up the term base and edit the term entry. But you can also do things like adding the selection that you have either in source or target as an alternative term, so you don't really have to open the editing environment just to add something to the term entry. Or you can say, I want to insert the target into the translation. So that means I want to insert the term here into the translation. Actually, there are several ways to do that. You can do a double click on the number 3. So that would insert it. You can use Control and 3 as you move the mouse pointer over it. It says click Control and 3, so the number, to get whatever is in the target part into your translation. So Control and 3 would insert that as well. Or if you actually want to use the mouse, you would say Insert into Translation. So that's the nice thing about memoQ. There are usually several ways of doing the same thing. So you can choose the one that is most useful for you. Now let's see, what else can we do? Something else you might have noticed is there is a small I symbol here above the translation results list. Sometimes it's open, sometimes it's closed. When it's closed, that means it's hiding something, usually identical matches from another resource, but you can always make them visible by clicking on the I. And now it shows you what other things are available, maybe in the translation memory, maybe from the LiveDocs alignments, maybe from a second translation memory. So there could be more information behind it or shorter matches that might not be as useful as the longer matches. So usually when the I is closed, memoQ is just not filling up the results list with everything it has, but only with the most relevant things it has. And then we have these boxes here for the sentence from the document, the similar sentence from the translation memory, and the translation from the translation memory. Now, at the moment, it shows, well, let's take the other one that's easier to look at. It shows that between the sentence in the document and the sentence in the translation memory, there is a difference. So here it says, this is a short, wonderful sentence, but my translation memory only has, this is a short, new sentence. So basically the same sentence, but at one place, there is a different word. So that's why it's marked in red. If it was a new word, then it would be marked in blue. Now, this is the traditional view of how memoQ came to market years and years ago, but it can also show this in with track changes. So if that is something that you like better, then right mouse click here. You say, I want to customize the appearance of these windows. And now memoQ will jump to the options, to the user options. And here in the miscellaneous area, for the lookup results, you can change the look. Let me move that between the traditional view that you can see right now to track changes view. Click on apply to see how it would look like. So now it shows the difference between the sentence in the document and the sentence in the translation memory with track changes. Whatever feels more comfortable for you, that's what you should set for yourself. You can always change that at any time. I actually like the traditional view better, but that's up to you. Then another place where you can do a right click, let me just go inside one of these documents because then I can show it more easily. There's the ribbon, right? With all the buttons and all the options that we have. And now you can see here, it says something that says My QA. So this is something I created myself. Usually you have the search area, the store area, comments and proofing, and so on. But this is personal to me. I've created that myself. So with a right mouse click on the ribbon somewhere, you can say I want to customize this ribbon. You get the customization dialog. On the left-hand side, that's all the features that memoQ has where there is a button. And then the right-hand side, the quick access, that's actually this toolbar that we can customize. So you can see here there's a folder for the search options. These would be the ones in the search area and so on. So what you can do is you can create a new group. Let's just use my name. And then I just add all the features that I want, maybe from other ribbons that I use regularly and I don't want to switch ribbons all the time. Let's see, in the edit ribbon, there is the undo and the redo button. And actually, these two I would like to put into my extra Angelika folder. So I add that and that as well. Or as I've done before with the QA, that would be in the review ribbon. And there I would have the quality assurance and the run QA. I would just add to my area. That's it. Click OK. And now I have another area here in my ribbon where I have the buttons that I use most. Of course, you can also take them off. Right mouse click, customize the ribbon, go to the quick access toolbar, and just remove the folder. That's it. And these buttons will be there in addition. So they will still be there in the other ribbons. They don't go away there, but they will just be added in addition here as well, so that you don't have to switch the ribbons. All right, more on buttons that don't exist on the ribbons. Let me open another file. For example, I have an HTML file. There is a segment that has lots and lots of tags, I for italics, B for bold, U for underlined, and A for links. And now you can see that on the right-hand side, I do have all the tags, but they are not really in the right sequence. If the source or the tags in the source segment and the tags in the target segment should appear in the same sequence, I can now rearrange these tags by pressing Alt and F6. And you can see now the tags have been ordered in the same order as they appear in the source. Well, actually, there is one missing, pressing F9 to get that last missing tag. I know this is not useful if you have to rearrange the tags because your language has a different sequence of ideas that you express in the sentence. So the logical sequence of the tags needs to change. But if it's the same in source and target, this can be quite helpful to get the tags in the right sequence. If you've messed up the tags and would like to start again, here's the next key combination, Control F8. To delete all tags from a target segment, Control F8. And now you can go and add the tags again. We've seen that before. You can add tags by just pointing, putting the cursor where you want to insert, using Copy Next Tag Sequence or F9. And there's another one, the tag insertion. If you click on that, your cursor will now be attached to the first tag from the source sentence, and you can, where you click, that tag will appear. So I click here for the starting of the italics. Click here for ending italics. Click here for starting bold, ending bold. Starting underlined, ending underlined. Starting the link, ending the link. And then undo that so that it doesn't always insert a tag when I click someplace. So this is also something that a lot of people never realize, that this kind of feature is there. And it can be quite useful if you're dealing with lots of tags, especially if they have to be in a different sequence as what you have in the source. And also this Control F8, removing tags from a document, can be quite helpful if you have to prepare a file. For example, let's see, I have a PDF file. And the PDF is rather, there are lots and lots of tags. I don't really need them. So what I would do to prepare this file for actual translation is to copy everything. First of all, select everything, Control Shift A. Then copy everything, Control Shift S. Then Control F8. delete all tags from the target. Yes. Now I have a wonderful clean document without any kind of formatting, because sometimes it's easier to add the formatting to the target language font manually than to deal with all these tags that sometimes even are not needed in the target. Now I would export this document so that this would be the final document that I get. And then I import this final document again for actual translation. So if you have a document where there are lots of tags that are really not necessary, this would be the way to go. Copy everything, delete the tags, export the file, and reuse that clean file for actual translation. So that's a little bit on the shortcuts. Now let's move on. We have something called MatchPatch. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but I have two sentences. They're pretty similar. The only thing is that there are different terms inside. So here you can see marked with blue, the terms that come from the term base. Now for the first sentence, I do have a translation in my translation memory. I'll apply that by double clicking. It seems okay. And I confirm it to go on to the next. What I would expect is a kind of fuzzy match where I still have to adjust the terms, right? That's what we usually expect. Now let me do Control and Enter. And what I get is a fuzzy match that has an exclamation mark at the beginning of the match value, which means this is a match patch or a patched up match, something where memoQ has taken a match that it found in the translation memory and has patched it up, has corrected it with things that it knows about, like terms from the term base. So if these are similar sentences where just, for example, the terms differ, then memoQ can do something like that and can try to correct the match for you. Of course, the actual match that is still there in the translation memory, sure, you can use that as well, and then work from there if you like. But the match patch is something that might be useful. If you want to switch it off, double click on the eye and deactivate the match patch feature, and then these matches don't come up anymore. But some of you might have wondered why we have these matches with the exclamation mark in front. And I'll show you something else. We have some documents that were translated, and now my client comes and says, well, you know, we've decided that our product name should be written in a different way. It should be a capital Q in the end. So you might have 20, 50 files that contain that. Of course, you can go through all of the files. You can open them all in memoQ, even together. But another thing we can do is, without even opening files, if you select the files in the list and then call up the search and replace dialog with Control F or Control H, we can do the following. We can search for a word and replace it. And we could run the replace on the files without actually opening them. Usually the replacement will only run on the target text. The source text is protected. It can be unprotected, but that's something you'll have to set in the options. But usually it will run on the target text. If you're not sure, if you would like to check the segments that where this change would be applied, then you could say, I want to mark them all. I don't want to do the replacement yet. I just want to mark them all. Let's do that. So 8 were marked. Okay. How do I get the marked segments? Now we come to the next thing, which I find really nice in memoQ. That's a so-called view. So that is where you have a way of combining documents into one long list of segments. So these are my modules. We can simply glue them together, or we can even be more specific and say, only show me in this view the segments that were marked with the search and replace. But that's one of the advanced options. And there is a tab for the status where you could say everything that was marked by the find and replace. But the find and replace has to have happened just now. And then you can create this view with these segments. If you close the project in between, these marks are gone. Now let's say, okay. All the segments from these documents that were marked by search and replace have now gone into the view. Let's open that. It opens up just like a document. And you can see that every single sentence contains the term And now we can go through and do a search and replace very selectively. The other thing is that you will always see which document this segment comes from. And if you need more context on these segments, you can also say, I want to jump to this document, which means the view is closed and the actual document is opened.